Afternoon, everyone. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have made clear that we will work with our Republican colleagues on any issue to find bipartisan common ground whenever and wherever possible in the best interests of the American people and in order to make life better for hardworking American taxpayers. Once again, Democrats have demonstrated our willingness to work together, do the right thing by the American people, and provide the overwhelming majority of votes necessary to get things done. And in this instance, fund the government, prevent a shutdown, and continue to work toward making sure we can arrive at a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, safety, and economic well-being. At the same time, what we see from extreme MAGA Republicans here in Washington and all across the country is an effort to take away reproductive freedom from the women of America. Extreme MAGA Republicans want a nationwide abortion ban. The extreme MAGA Republicans want to strip away the ability of women to seek fertility treatment. Extreme MAGA Republicans want to go after contraception. Extreme MAGA Republicans, at the end of the day, want and will stop at nothing in trying to jam their right-wing ideology down the throats of women and the American people. And House Democrats are going to continue to aggressively push back against their extremism. Questions? It was a wonderful philanthropic donation to ensure that the young people of America, regardless of their socioeconomic status, can pursue a medical education and then use that medical education to benefit communities in the Bronx, throughout New York City, and hopefully in underserved communities across the nation. Uh, there's a lot of trial and tribulation and turbulence in American society right now. It's wonderful to have a feel-good story such as the incredibly generous donation that was made to the Albert Einstein School of Medicine. In terms of what our hopes are relative to President Biden's State of the Union address, it's my hope and expectation that what we will hear from President Biden will continue to be his vision for what the next several years will look like under President Biden's leadership in terms of building a healthy economy, lowering costs, increasing access to affordable housing, keeping our communities safe, and making sure that there's economic opportunity in every single zip code. President Biden has credibility in all of these areas because so much work has been done to date to make life better for the American people, to build an incredible economy in terms of the growth that has taken place from the depths of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic shutdown to the moment that we are right now, with a recognition that there's still a significant amount of work that needs to be done. Go back to this side. Thanks.
Mr. Leader, I'm wondering if you could talk to us about your relationship with Speaker Johnson now. In the early part of his tenure here, you've avoided any sort of catastrophic uh, situation with either the government not being funded or other things. You still have obviously a lot of big things that you have to get done, but it seems as though you've been able to find common ground, to find ways to at least open the door to negotiating, which may have not been the case with prior relationships with minority leaders and speakers. Do you find that, are you optimistic about your relationship and your ability to get these big things done?
Well, throughout the 118th Congress, including in terms of the relationship with former Speaker McCarthy, it was an open ended, communicative, and forward looking relationship that has continued in terms of the dialogue between Speaker Johnson and myself. There will be a whole host of issues where Speaker Johnson and House Democrats disagree, but I continue to take the position that we should be able to agree to disagree with each other without being disagreeable, and at the same time, working incredibly hard to find common ground, exercise our common sense in order to achieve the common good for the greatest number of Americans possible. And I think that while Speaker Johnson, who's a deeply conservative individual, may hold views that are very different than the views held on many issues by the House Democratic Caucus, we recognize that we're here to try to get things done, and we will continue to work with any of our Republican colleagues in order to advance the ball for the American people. Thanks. So go to the second row. Thanks.
Yeah. Can you clarify whether Democrats would save Speaker Johnson from a motion to vacate if he brings Ukraine to the floor?
The comments that I have made on this issue speak for themselves. The only comments that I have made on this issue are observations, but not a firm declaration.
How will this most recent agreement sort of affect the timeline for aid to Ukraine and Israel? And when was the last time you spoke with the speaker about foreign aid?
Well, we all had a conversation uh, in the Oval Office at a meeting that I think was convened, of course, by President Biden, where we discussed a whole host of issues, including aid to Ukraine, preventing a government shutdown, and dealing with the challenges at the border. It's time for my Republican colleagues to stop playing games and engaging in political stunts with respect to the national security priorities of the American people, which include making sure that we stand with Ukraine and not Vladimir Putin. The choice here is clear. We can either stand on the side of democracy or stand on the side of autocracy. Stand on the side of freedom or stand on the side of tyranny. Stand on the side of truth or stand on the side of propaganda. The American people have always stood on the side of democracy, freedom, and truth, and that means standing on the side of the Ukrainian people. And House Republicans need to put the bipartisan national security bill sent over from the Senate on the floor for an up or down vote, and everyone knows that it will pass. That is the only responsible thing to do. Thanks. Go to the third row. Thanks.
So there was a New York Times
I'll come back to you.
published earlier this week describes in great detail how the CIA has supported a network of spy bases along the Russian border. It's been going on for over a decade, about a decade, collaboration with the Ukrainians. And the U.S. position has been towards an unprovoked act of aggression, you said. So I'm wondering if you can explain or justify how conducting sort of operations, CIA operations on the Russian border doesn't amount to a provocation against Moscow by the West. Is it possible these types of operations may have just made things worse, given we're in a full-blown war, or not us, but full-blown war in
The loss of any civilian life in a theater of war, including in Gaza or in Ukraine, is a great tragedy. And everything needs to be done to minimize and eliminate civilian casualties in any theater of war, including in Gaza. It's clear that we need to do everything possible, working with Israel, as well as the moderate Arab states in the region, like Jordan and Egypt, to try to get the hostages out, surge humanitarian assistance in, and resolve this conflict in a way that can lead to a just and lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians. With respect to the particular incident, it's my hope and expectation that there will be a full, fair, and comprehensive investigation to determine how this happened and to make clear, decisive recommendations as to how to stop this type of tragedy from ever happening again.
Quick follow-up on that. There's a lot of members of your caucus who based on this event said that now there should be conditions on military aid.
Yeah, it's my view that President Biden has issued an executive order that is designed to make clear that any assistance provided to any of our democratic allies, including Israel, Ukraine, or countries in the Indo-Pacific, must be utilized in a manner consistent with our own human rights laws as well as the international rules of war. That was a step that was taken by President Biden that I support, but I also support the approach that was taken by a bipartisan group of Democratic and Republican senators in the Comprehensive National Security Bill that was sent over to the House. And to me, that is the most responsible approach at this period of time. Put the bipartisan national security bill sent over from the Senate on the House floor for an up or down vote. Thanks. Come back here.
Just to follow up on that last point you made, you've heard Speaker Johnson say it, we've heard him say it. When you ask him, will he put it up? He seems completely uninterested in dealing with that anytime soon. At what point do Democrats say a discharge petition is the way to go? How long do you keep saying put it on the floor when you hear him say in public, we're considering all options, but the border has to be dealt with first, right after they kill the border?
The most effective way to secure aid for our Democratic allies, including but not limited to Ukraine, is to take the bipartisan bill that is pending before the House right now and to put it on the floor. All legislative options remain on the table, but the clearest path toward making sure we support the Ukrainians who have bravely fought against Russian aggression and not allow Russia to succeed, which will only result in dragging the American people into a potential conflict with NATO that will involve American service women and men on the ground. The only way to ensure that that doesn't happen is to make sure we provide immediate assistance to the Ukrainian people so they can continue their successful effort to push back against Russian aggression. At the same time, we'll continue to explore the opportunities to get the bipartisan, comprehensive, Senate-passed national security bill on the House floor for an up or down vote. But that does not take away the responsibility for House Republicans who hold a shrinking and increasingly temporary majority from exercising the authority that they now have to put the bill on the floor.
When did you hear about, did you get a heads up about McConnell's departure from leadership? And as a leader in the House, do you think it's going to be more difficult for whomever comes after him? Or to work with that person?
You know, I learned about his um, departure from leadership publicly in the same manner that many of us did on the Hill when he communicated his intention to move on. It remains to be seen who will emerge in his place, but it is my hope that it's someone who recognizes that when you ascend to a leadership position, you have a pragmatic responsibility to exercise the common sense that the American people want to see in terms of getting things done for the American people, as opposed to being an ideological warrior who takes a my way or the highway approach that is not in the best interest of the American people. Thank you. I'll come back here. And, yeah.
Do you have any response to the members of your caucus who went to Cuba last week, Progressive Caucus members?
Yeah, I have not been briefed on the Cuba trip, and so I'll refrain from commenting until I'm able to hear from them directly. You got it. Yeah.
Get your reaction. Senator John Fetterman today, in an interview with Fox, said something along the lines of he would be open to supporting HR 2, but his kill switch, so to speak, would be that the DACA, ending DACA portion would be removed. He's a fellow Democrat on the Senate side. Do you think comments like that might give any momentum to Democrats in the House to potentially negotiate on HR 2 for border security? Any reaction to that at all?
Yeah, HR 2 is not a serious legislative proposal, and extreme MAGA Republicans have repeatedly demonstrated that they are unserious about addressing the challenges at the border and fixing our broken immigration system. As House Democrats, we've made clear repeatedly that we should deal decisively with the challenges at the border and fix our broken immigration system, but do it in a manner that is bipartisan, is comprehensive, and recognizes that there are things that need to be done in terms of dreamers and farm workers, as well as making sure that there is a safe, secure, and humane border.
The House passed tax, I think it's called tax relief for working families bill, stuck in the Senate now. The lead Republican wants to make the child tax credit more expansive. That's something Democrats would support. It means opening up the bill again to more amendments over here, and possibly holding up the tax season following for millions of Americans.
Are you suggesting that the lead Republican wants to make it more expensive or less expensive?
More expensive. Senator Crapo from Idaho.
Yeah, I haven't seen Senator Crapo's proposal, but certainly it's been the position of House Democrats that the child tax credit, as enacted as part of the American Rescue Plan, was a legislative accomplishment that benefited middle class families, low income families, and working families at the same time. Moving forward, in enhancing the child tax credit, it should be done in a manner consistent with what was included in the American Rescue Plan that benefited tens of millions of families all across the country. In terms of the legislation that is pending before the Senate, I'm unable to comment until I'm able to have a greater degree of visibility in terms of what Senator Crapo intends to try to accomplish and how that affects the other aspects of the tax package. President Biden continues to win a substantial number of delegates on his way toward the August Democratic Convention. And it's my expectation that he will have strong Democratic support coming out of that convention heading into the November elections. Everything we care about, including reproductive freedom, Social Security, Medicare, gun safety, the climate crisis, and democracy, will be on the ballot in November, and President Biden is on the right side of those issues and also has a vision for how to make life better for the American people into the future. Last question? Thanks.
Obviously, the new maps were finalized in New York this week. After a year of litigation and various changes, I think one district ended up becoming more Trump-friendly, other ones barely became slightly more Biden-friendly. Was it really worth the year?
The bipartisan map that was enacted by the state legislature is a fairer map for the people of New York State and resulted in a reduction of county splits, town splits, and village splits. The bipartisan map that was ultimately adapted by the state legislature has districts that are now more compact, and the bipartisan map adopted by the New York State legislature brings communities of interest together that had been inexplicably ripped apart by the unelected out-of-town special master. The fact that the maps that are now going to be the ones utilized by candidates for Congress all across the state of New York are fairer is a victory for the people of New York State. Thank you, everyone.